to move on and discuss and vote as far as our position on lost funds for two things, two additional things yet tonight: the new animal control facility and the potential on the new public works facility. And one thing I wanted to do, shift over to this side of the room and do two things. One, we all have had Councilman Winicky involved as our liaison for a number of years now, and we thanked him as he was outgoing at our last meeting. And I wanted to, as far as our group, our committee, welcome Ann Poe, who now is our liaison for the City Council. So I wanted to welcome you from the Lost Oversight Committee. Welcome. Glad to have you. And at regular meetings, this is a special called meeting, but at regular meetings, normally you'll be on the agenda to give us just an update if there's anything new going on as far as the lost from the City Council's standpoint. And then also...
Can I just say one thing? I'd like to thank everybody for all the work they've been doing over the last, how long has it been, a couple of years, but you guys have been doing a great job, so thank you very much for your hard work. Yeah, and then the reverse is true too. Then we hope you'll be our spokesperson to the council when, yeah, be happy to.
On what we do here and what our opinions are.
Yep.
So, welcome again.
Thank you.
Before we go ahead and discuss those two items and vote on those two items, I also, since we have a number of visitors here tonight, one, thank you, welcome, and just wanted to open the floor if any of you have any comments concerning our group this evening also.
I'd like to talk. Do you want me to move up, or am I fine here? First off, I'd like to say I know you guys are getting ready to vote on the animal shelter and some other projects, and I'm under the understanding, of course, that 423B of the Iowa Code of Iowa is that you guys need to complete the projects or the specification of the ballot language before you can start using local option sales tax for urban renewal projects such as the animal shelter. And so bringing that to light, and as you guys are talking about gaps, I'm here tonight to represent some gaps that I'd like to talk about myself. These gaps have been brought up many times to the City Council. They've been addressed when city staff, city management have been there. Nobody seems to want to turn around and address the gap, right? And this is what the local option sales tax was for. It was sold to us under the premise that 90% of this money would be used to acquire flooded houses and rehabilitate flooded houses, as is quoted by Monica Vernon in the Gazette, right? We saw this on the news. Mayor Corbett, same thing. This is the way it was promoted to us. Years have gone by, and as you know, I was on the local option sales tax no team because of these simple factors. The money was not spent for houses to rehabilitate or to acquire them. Not 90%, not 50%, maybe 7%. Yet they turned around and they said, we spent 90% acquiring and rehabilitating flooded properties. All right, flooded properties are not flooded houses. Those are two different things. And so we have a major gap going on in the buyout acquisition areas where these people have been denied assistance from Jumpstart, from volunteers, from any other source of funding. And this is what this local option sales tax money was intended to be used for in the first place. And so I have a list, a small one at this moment, of some immediate people, and I have a lot of other people that I know that are already in these gaps, and I'll describe some of them. I have Matthew Robinette on 5th Street Northwest. His place is probably about 85% done. He had partial flood insurance, had to wait for the first 30% to come in to get 50% of his place done, to get the next 30% in to come to the 85. At this point in time, Matt Robinette's place, it's 85% complete, right? No assistance from anybody else. There's no FEMA. There's no Jumpstart. We're in a buyout acquisition. We're being coerced out of our homes during this whole process by being denied volunteers and Jump Start assistance and these other things, right? So now, in order to get some kind of retribution on the situation that's been dealt with down on these people, we essentially have some requests out of this local option sales tax committee. And we would request that you fill the gaps that are in our areas. My house needs work still. Dennis's house needs work. Donna and Rick's needs work. I got Mike Lane over on 22nd Avenue behind Checktown. His house still needs finished. None of these people have got the assistance that they should have gotten along the way, and it's this local option sales tax meeting's job to be filling those gaps with the local option sales tax money that you've already received. We've been asking for this. We've been saying we need help. We've been at the city councils over and over. I've been on this for 3 years. And so I'm at the point now where I'm coming to these meetings, I'm watching you guys talk about filling gaps. And here once again is the gap that we keep pointing out over and over and over again. And I'm to the point where if you guys are not willing to fill the gap, then I'm willing to express the violation of the 423B of the Iowa Code if you guys continue to spend money on animal shelters and other projects before you fill these gaps. And I think you know, you and I have met, I'm a serious person. I do my research, I understand my stuff, and I bring this stuff to the table. I put all my cards out there. I got nothing to hide. We need help. There's probably 9-10 houses right in that area that need help. I got other examples. Craig Sharp on A Avenue Northwest. Probably saw the signs of cardboard in his front yard as he was complaining about the plumber that did this terrible work inside his house. This was a Jump Start program that did the work on his house. Jump Start inspectors came in and approved his house, wrote the guy the second check, and the guy ran off with the money. There Craig is, stuck with a loan and a lien on his property for a forgivable loan for money that was essentially loaned to him that he should have got the value. But he was forced to take a Jump Start certified on a list contractor, which really meant nothing more than you had to be, not unbarrable and registered with workforce development. But you had to be on the list, which essentially to me was unfair competition for contractors all out through the area. So they gave him a contractor on the list that came in, did garbage work, and then turned around and paid the guy anyway. Craig had to go sue the contractor because Jump Start wouldn't do anything for him. After all, they didn't lose a penny. It wasn't their money, right? Craig's the one that's out of it because he's got a lien on his house, and now he's got a tub that's crooked. He's got water lines running up through his stairwell going upstairs when they should be in the wall, and he's got a pipe that he's going to run his head into every time he goes down the basement steps, all from one plumber. He sues the guy. The judge fines in for Craig because obviously the work's bad. Even though it's essentially code, it's not good work. It's not what you pay for. But collecting money out of these contractors after they've already belted up, sold the business, collected all the Jump Start money. I mean, they fold them up. They come in, they sweep up money, don't do the work, drop the business, or start another one 3 weeks later under a different name, And so there's a gap. There's a guy there that, has gotten totally reamed over. Lon Whitford on 11th Street Northwest, same type of thing. He paid the contractors. They got a hold of the first half of the money. They literally did more damage. They did good. They tore out his basement steps. They put them back in with one of the risers 2 inches different than the rest of the steps. Won't even meet code. Now it's going to cost more money to rip the stuff out that they did bad and go in and fix his house right. Yet, in his case, he didn't sign the second half. He didn't sign off. So Jump Start still has the second half of the money sitting there. Now this is in a litigation kind of process thing, trying to figure out what to do next, because obviously the first contractor got half the money and only did about 20% of the work, and so now there's not enough money left there to complete, Lon Whitford's house out of what is remaining in the Jump Start program. So these things are gaps that you guys could be filling with this local option sales tax money that would actually fit the ballot language according to the way it's supposed to be spent. And I would appreciate if you'd do that.
Let me respond on a couple things. One, keep in mind that our group.
The Oversight Committee, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
So we don't develop programs, we don't set that up. But what I would ask from you is, if you get an opportunity, if you want to put any of these gap ideas in black and white and get them to the committee, one thing the committee can do is take, and I think Lisa's working on some things, but when we hear these kind of things, if we can get them in black and white, and then as a committee, I've been told by a few different council people that if we have any ideas for gaps, we can forward those on, and one thing that may or may not help, we can only do what we can do, but if we vote that the group feels it's a good gap, we can kind of at least put that behind the request as we shoot that off to council.
Well, do you want me to put in a proposal, or do you want me to put in a request to write a program?
I have the construction zone in Greenway listed within here, as you mentioned it, the things I remember what I have in here, but the thing is, City Council never, ever voted to prevent funding sources to go to those people in the Greenway construction zone. That was all third-party administrator and the state. And I don't think it's right. When they got their FEMA money, they moved forward, rehab, because there was such uncertainty about buyouts or rehabilitation assistance. So they used their FEMA money to try to start rehabbing, and the third-party administrators in the state denied any assistance, which is basically coercion, and then they used their FEMA money. But the city council voted in the zones, but they just didn't spend the money, but they did not ever say those two zones are not eligible for funds.
And I don't want to get too caught up into the details, because I'm not going to pretend to know what those details are. But, and I don't think it has to be anything, fancy or official program or anything, but anything you can put together in black and white and forward to us. The one thing we can do is we can, as a committee, vote on those things or forward those to council, and at least it comes from us also, and maybe that helps. But we'd be more than willing to entertain those. It's one thing for us to talk about it, but if we have something in black and white, then we have something we can pass on. So that's what I'd ask for.
No problem.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be a full-fledged program, but
No, I think
idea.
just a general idea, maybe a couple examples, and maybe a proposed
A
way to
proposition,
satisfy them.
No problem.
When it is designed.
I'll get it to you personally.
Okay. Anybody else? Carol?
I just had a quick question. I'm curious, as on this agenda tonight, you have the discussion of the animal control and then the discussion of public works. Who is the party or parties that present it to you as a group to discuss? Somebody's got to take that initiative, like maybe the council or Mr. Crawford or somebody that says, hey, we want you to discuss this. Who does that?
Normally, where that comes into play is the way it's happened in the past is Councilman Winnick, we get this matrix of the things that the council has voted on as far as to spend lost funds on. And when the council discusses something and votes to do it, well, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes it's that they're going to consider it. And when it makes the matrix, that's when, Councilman Winnicky would normally, in his presentation each month, give us an update on what's going on with the council as far as lost is concerned. And then those items would make that matrix, and then what we do is once it gets to a matrix, then we'll try to, sometimes we'll ask somebody from the city to come and explain, like some of these programs are get kind of detailed, and we need further explanation. And then we will discuss and put a vote out there so council knows what the oversight's opinion is of each of these programs that get listed on the matrix.
But if this is a discussion and vote, who's explaining the whereabouts or the reason they're putting it on for the lost funds to be paid, especially especially the new public works facility. They've been talking about the animal control that was destroyed, basically. But not, the building department was not destroyed.
Right. And that's something that, you know, Councilman Winnicky touched on a little bit last month as far as, if I remember this correctly, you know, I think there was options of tearing down and building new. There was an option of, for lack of a better word, to rehab the
Right.
existing one.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a third option to do nothing, I don't know.
Yeah, that was the third.
But that was the three options. So he kind of explained those. And then basically, you know, it's not a program that we need to get too much into the details to know, okay, how's that all work, what's the process? You know, like Joe went through on the acquisition, what that process looked like. This one's kind of just, do we feel money going towards that specific project matches the ballot language or not? And then I think to Greg's point, then what the committee has tried to weigh also, and different people on the committee will have different opinions on this, but one, there's the pure black and white, does it meet the ballot language? And then there's the gray area. How much emphasis do you want to put into the intent of the voters when they voted, was it March of '09? And then obviously then you have everything in between. What was known at the time of March '09 compared to what's transpired since then. You know, so at March of '09, obviously nobody knew what percentage or what dollar amount would come in from the federals for acquisition. So anyway, that's what we try to do, is weigh all those different factors.
When they weighed the factors back in August of 11, they had the estimated timeline and that, and the funding sources were for FEMA, iJobs, and city funds. Didn't say anything about lost funds. That's their own.
So they didn't even discuss where the lost funds would,
No, lost
I
funds
mean,
we
where
never
the local
discussed for that.
funds would come
I was
from.
just curious why they're here.
I just want to
because
clarify, Public Works has never been voted on by the city council to use lost funds.
I know they-
That has not occurred.
No, but
I
they have
know
a
that, but
$13
you're
million
talking about it.
gap.
I've been down there, I went through the Public Works, and I've been down there many times. They redecorated, or redone that thing, I think it was 98, I don't know how many million in, $500,000 into a parking lot. The upstairs is as good as it ever was, okay? The downstairs, I went through, and that's the only thing I went through with Sandy and one of the engineers. Granted, it's clean, it's fixed up by FEMA, or cleaned up, it's crowded. I guess at this particular time, lost funds, in my opinion, is not a suitable part of the money to go to fix up a building that's perfectly capable. If you quit buying new equipment, which they have, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, it's a possibility they could maybe build a new equipment place. Not all that, it's got really nice offices up there.
Yeah, but I need to take you back to what our role is.
Yes, right, I understand.
Those
That's just my
decisions-
opinion.
Yeah, those
yeah.
those decisions we may or may not disagree with, or we may or may not agree with, but what we have to do is, if they decide to do that, how do we vote as far as do we think it matches the ballot language or not?
Or if it was the intent of the voters.
Yeah, and
Because that campaign was
that's
sold
for each-
to help the homeowners.
And that's for each individual to throw that in the mix. But some of the things we voted on after the council has voted, and some of the items on this list we voted on before the council voted. Different council people have different feelings as far as, you know, what our opinion is before they vote. So Councilman Winnicky brought things sometimes before and sometimes after the fact to us. So I'd like to tell you there's more rhyme or reason to that, but that's really how it
I know
happened.
there was a big. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Yes,
I
sir.
have something that's kind of taking you back a little bit. I wish I could have asked this when Joe was still here. But just to clarify something about the residential rent protection program, is that supposed to serve the purpose of like enabling owners of functioning multi-unit rental properties to phase out tenants in order to accept the buyout? Am I correct in my understanding? Or what is it for?
If I'm understanding you, that sounds correct, because there's a gap between when they get the purchase agreement and when they close, and rather than going to new rental agreements in that period.
I don't think that's what it said.
That's not what it was.
You were talking about phasing people out of the building.
Right.
That's not the way Joe described it. That's not the way I heard Joe describe it. He said when people were gone, that they wouldn't re-let the apartments.
Right.
They wouldn't put them up for
Some
rent.
put
So
Like,
could
for
close the
example, if I had a
acquisition.
building
Yeah.
with like 10 different units with 10 different leases signed at 10 different times, so they would come out in different months, and I was gonna take the buyout, so like one would come out in, you know, January, and then the next lease would come due, and I wouldn't re-sign it 3 months later. So if I was phasing out the tenants in order to accept the buyout, in order not to have any tenants, this program would reimburse me for the lost rent of those empty units in the meantime, in order to enable a functioning apartment
From when
complex.
you reach an agreement with the city.
And can you reach an agreement with the city when you currently have tenants?
Yeah,
Okay, so,
that's what they.
It's the agreement for the buyout. So
Mhm.
if they're offering you a certain price and, you agree with that price and sign the fair compensation form, from then until it closes, that's the only window that they're providing this rental coverage